Another great tool that Lightroom has to offer for further editing an image is the Transform tab. Now what this does is that it transforms your image and you can shift perspective and all sorts of things. So let's just go ahead and expand it. And we get quite a lot of options here. We got some sliders, we got the constraint crop that we also had in the lens correction tab. We got some presets, and what this panel allows us to do is to change the perspective, the angle, straighten our image, rotate it, scale it up and down, scale it in and out, and by allowing us to do this, we can have more control over how we want our image to be seen. This tab is mostly used for, but not limited to, editing buildings, landscapes with lots of buildings and sceneries, and also street photography. Sometimes when we have a street or any horizontal line, or maybe this one, where again we have some vertical lines, or this one where we have both lines. We have both horizontal and vertical lines over here. Now, I'm going to start with showing you guys the preview. We can tell Lightroom to do everything for us. And right now my image is kind of slanted. We want it to be straightened. I'm going to hit Auto. And by the way, these are the images from Unsplash. Their name shows up over here, and so is this, another photographer. This is from Pixels, and yeah. So I'm going to tell Lightroom to level this on its own. So let's hit Auto, and it did a pretty good job. Let's have a look at the before and the after. It's a lot more straightened right now. And by the way, if you hit the backlash in your keyword, you're seeing the before and the after in one page. Down here you can see it maybe side by side, split, top and bottom, and split from a horizontal view. That's a helpful thing to know. So right now Lightroom did a pretty good job, but let's have a look at the other presets it has. Let's turn this off, and then we have guided. What guided allows us to do is Lightroom asks us to draw two lines. I've already drawn two here, 2 points, sorry. So it gives me this box that I can use to draw out two of the lines. And based on what I given it, it has now used its own way of straightening my image. If I hit constraint crop, this is what the image looks like right now. And now it's looking good in terms of the horizontal, but it is a bit slanted on a... Sorry, it looks good vertically. The vertical lines are straight, but now the horizontal line is not. So with this tool, I can do this, or I could use it for another point, like maybe the ground. This is not that accurate. And now it did another way of editing. If I hit done, the image is looking pretty straight. Have a look at before and after. And if you notice, it kind of stretched the image too. This is something that you can do on the transform panel as well. You can stretch the images, squish it in, move it left and right, and so much more. So let me just undo what I just did. Bring the image back to the way it was. That's what the guided tool does. Then we have the level tool. Again, it's then asks Lightroom to level the image out by itself. And it's a good job. It did a good job. Next one is vertical, and it fixes the photo with the vertical lines that it detects. Let's have a look, see if it did any oops, let's zoom out a little. Let's go to 200. Let's go to like 50. Come up. It's still a bit slanted, but it did a pretty good job for an preset. Let's look at the other side. And this side also has room for improvement. Let's zoom out. And finally, we have the full option, which allows us to, which tells Lightroom to do all sorts of corrections fully. So it's not limited to one category, it can do whatever it wants. Now let's say I allowed Lightroom to do this, and Lightroom has leveled my image on its own. I can further enhance the image, and whenever I go on one of these, I get this guidelines, which is really helpful. I can change them further to the way that I like. First one here, we have vertical. What this means is that it stretches or squishes to one side vertically. And using this, you can change the perspective. Let's say if this was the case, constrain crop. Now our image is looking like it was taken from a low angle. And it also has a fisheye effect. Let's undo that. We'll come back to this where we'll just use what we've learned and apply it to an actual image where we will edit to make it nice. The same thing goes for the horizontal. This one I'm stretching and squishing it from either side, but horizontally. Rotate is rotating the image. It's not that complicated. Now aspect squishes the image from both sides or stretches the image from both sides, both vertically and horizontally. Scaling is just, coming in and out, which is something you could just crop. It's not that unique. Let's undo that. Now you won't be using these, but it might come in handy. You can move your images to the left or to the right. And here you can move it up or down. So this is how each one works. I'm gonna hit off because it was a bit slanted when we moved it out, and right now I can see it from its original frame. So this is how each one works. We also have guided upright tool. I'm going to I can also just use this to tell Lightroom I want this part, I want the image to be straightened according to this line. Let me also try to draw another line here. And I will bring this, and now it's straightened pretty nicely based off what I told Lightroom to use as guidelines. My image is now straightened. So I will need to use another line. Let me change this. Okay, it will need a little bit of, let me use the base of the building as a guide. Okay, I think now it's looking better. Let me go on one of these. And I think now we did a pretty decent job. Here's the before, here's the after. We didn't change the perspective, we've only just straightened the image. And now let's look at another example where we can apply these things that we just learned to change the perspective. Here I have the Big Ben as reference, photo by Henry B. And I'm going to change the perspective so it looks like it was taken from a lower angle. Well, I would need to change the vertical slider because we're trying to change it. See, if I do this, it looks like it was taken from below. And if I do this, it looks like it was taken from like a higher angle. Although you don't want to move this too much because it looks weird. And you would just want a little bit of adjustment. I'm not going to turn this on right now. We'll do that at the end. And then here's the aspect. I can use aspect to bring back right now before this it was too squished. So I can bring back the naturalness of the image by making it a little bit more stretched. And right now it's looking decent. I can even go further with this. And then a little more adjustment here. And then we can use the horizontal panel as well. Maybe make it look like it was taken from the left or from the right. Okay, and now we can also rotate it, so I can get a nice looking angle. Then finally I will use the guided tool. Let's start from the bottom here. Oops. Okay. Click and then hold to where you want. Let's click it here. Let's take another point and to click and hold to where I would like it to be. Let's just get pretty difficult. Okay, and now Lightroom has adjusted it further. Let me hit done. And now it's looking, these parts look pretty straight. Here's the guide. You can see that they're now equal. And now if I'm done with my image, I can hit constrain crop. And Lightroom will just crop out any of the white spots for me. Let's look at the before and after. I have changed the perspective. Now it looks a lot more squished. And looks like I was on a higher level before I took this. I'm not taking it from below. And that's how you use the perspective changer. Now let's go back to this image and apply the same things we just did. Let me make it look like this was taken. Maybe like this. Change the aspect as well. Make it more skinny. And then what we can do is rotate it a slight bit so it's even. And then I'll use the guided tool, or I'll just use this to make the line straight. Okay, it's looking good. And then let's change the tip. Or actually keep it as it is. Okay. Hit constrain crop. Hit done. Let's look at the before and after. I've kind of stretched it out so it does not look like the camera was close to the ground. When I took it, looks like I'm standing a bit higher in terms of level. And let's apply this to our final image where we have this lady standing on the street, on the sidewalk. And already we can spot the slanted horizontal line. Let's quickly use the guided tool and find the spot that we would want to start from and then stretch that to the edge. Okay. And then I'll use another point because we need to give it 2 points. Bring it all the way to the end. I think that's straight. And right now it just straightened it out using its own preset. And then Lightroom did it on its own. Let's hit done. Look at the before and after. As you can see, Lightroom kind of changed the perspective a little to meet the guides that I gave it. So it's really helpful when you have a lot of straight lines and a lot of towers in your image. Let me use the guide to make sure. I do need to rotate it a slight bit. Okay, and now it's straight. Also, let's change the horizontal line to make her seem more flattened. Then I would need to rotate it a bit more because I just disrupted the thing. And now I'm happy with it. Let's look at the before and after. I have changed the way the image looks. This is how you use the, let's also turn this on. While you do this, turn this on, it's helpful. This is how you use the, although we do have some parts that we've missed. Let's further rotate this. Okay, now it's straight. And this is how you use the transform panel in Lightroom to transform your images into other perspectives, give it new angles, change the aspect, scale it in, scale it out. Let's actually use the scale tool to kind of just have her. Just use the scale tool. And I can use the offset to bring her a bit to the middle. Let's keep her in the middle. Okay, now she's in the middle. We've used, we zoomed in. Okay. We've zoomed in quite a bit, and I can also change the Y offset, maybe move her up or down. Let's bring her a bit down. And let's have a look at the before and after. It looks completely different. I hope you guys were able to learn how to use the simple sliders to change your image and transform it into a whole different one. Before or after you've done color grading and did the basic editings that we've learned so far. In the next lesson, we'll learn about the two final panels of the Develop tab. And after this, you will be done with the basics of editing, and we will get into more specific types and how we can apply each of our techniques that we've learned so far to different categories and styles of photography. So I will see you in the next lesson.